Welcome back to another episode of Dateline for Dominance, when tomorrow becomes today. I'm your host, Lavernius Jackson. In the immortal words of Elvis Presley, "Dear Lord, I sincerely hope you're coming because you really started something." I remember being out in the yard, watching J.R. Bob Dobbs in his legendary moments of clarity, screaming at one of his neighbors, "You'll all be eating roach crap by the turn of the century." And little did he know. But he does, because Bob knows all. Here we are, losing control. The world is going all the ways that we knew it was going to go. The prophecies are coming true. And I'm going to tell you what, those pinks out there proclaiming and procrastinating, proclaiming and propagandizing with their mass media machine, I got one thing to say to those dirty pinks. Shut up, pink boy. Now we're speeding headlong into an inconceivable wall of sanity-sapping minor irritations, simulated cheese like soy meat food products, power and water shortages, flimsy wheelchair, solar gizmos instead of sturdy, massive, real metal cars. 35 miles an hour, turn your thermostat down, go stand in line, lower your expectations. And that wall of irritation is about to turn into a tidal wave of tribulation from the likes of overpopulation, toxic waste, energy depletion, economic regression, bad money, hell. Most people still don't believe it could even happen. Hell yes. Unaccountable cults of every imaginable variety are literally being forced to explode across the continents, each in its own inside joke kind of way. It isn't the pressure of now that's responsible. It's our past negligence. It's those pinks. Them buried their heads in the narco sand of the 70s and procrastinated coping with a hostile environment that won't slow down and stop changing. The cults of disguised normalcy can prosper now because of the massive weight of deliberate public apathy and voluntary stupidity and utterly unfounded optimism that lays on them like an adolescent lays on his pornography in bed to prevent its discovery by his stern parents. Those cities are about to turn into game preserves crammed with no animals, but only a dense population of over-equipped hunters firing projectiles with haphazard fervor right at each other as well as at nondescript inanimate objects. There is no rhyme nor reason. Beware the nulls and the voids. They're surrounding you. They have guns and money and are not quite accidentally turning the world into an overpopulated terror ghetto. A hell future where our children will grow up in conditions of perpetual apocalypse and suicide epidemics. Don't you bank on salvation by human means. Individually, humans can behave quite decently to each other, but their systems have a built-in Holocaust factor, which no amount of progress can nullify in time. The humans will not wake up. Only intervention by some cosmic superintelligence can save us now, and only Bob can bring it about properly. If you don't want to broil your brains in the zombie business corridors of empty pinkness or grinding poverty, if you don't want to feel the meat cook off your bones in a nuclear oven that was once your hometown, you'd better drop your mental candy bars and step out under the blinding light of the sun and make witness to what you really are. Yes, you had better be ready to jump. Those who come to economic cataclysm, those who knew how to climb up into the conspiracy job tree had better know how to climb back down again, or they're going to be stuck where the heat rises. Look around you. The signs are everywhere. Current American social patterns have already gone way too far. The family is all broken apart. Morals have degenerated into a venereal TV swamp. Drug abuse and perverted sex are taught in schools. It's just like the Roman Empire before it fell. The collapse is nearly total now. But what it may become in the final few years will mutilate our children beyond our wildest nightmares. Yes, it is everywhere. The money changers, the beasts, the masters of the pink, purveyors of all that is sheepish and soft in the world. They are just setting us up for a massive 1984 white wing resurgence. They're going to allow the great witch burning. Look there, we already have demon-infiltrated normalcy shock troops going by the hellishly iconic name of the moral majority. Good God, these are supposed to be Christians? They've got Jesus and the devil all mixed up. Make no mistake, the Subgenius Foundation is with Jesus, the fighting Jesus, not some long-haired mushmouth. We're with free enterprise and America. We're no commie tools of Satan. We're against one world government, immortal sex on TV, and intellectual pinks, and the conspiracy and centralization by devil-worshipping puppets in the Capitol. By God, we uphold traditional family values, but things are not that simple. Even if our elected officials weren't corrupt assholes, we'd still know that Jehovah 1, the alien space brain, has this planet in his grip. He manipulates every tiny move we make. His stark fist of removal has a finger in every pie. This degeneracy is his work. He wants our society dragged down into the depths of depravity for some mysterious reason of his own. What choice does even a subgenius have? It was Nagvavat that made me do it. But what the devil? What are you doing? What are you doing in here? No! Lavernius trying to invade our space, trying to invade our dimensional frequencies again. That dang old Lavernius. He's a mischievous one. Yeah, he's sometimes, you know, there's this rift. We're renting this place, you know. It's a nice room and everything. We like it, but there's this rift in the space-time continuum, and this guy Lavernius keeps coming out, you know, at all hours of the day and night. You never know when he's going to show up. He's screaming about the pink boys and all this. He seems to like to quote out of this book of the Subgenius. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this book, but he leaves copies of this all over the damn house. And it's got some interesting stuff. And I mean, I got to admit, it's got some good points. They've got some good points, but I mean, ranting like lunatics. By the way, sorry about the interruption. My name is LJ Wiley. This is the Don't Hold Your Breath podcast. Thank you very much for coming back and watching another episode with us. If you're getting any kind of benefit from the podcast over the last few episodes, go ahead and hit that like button, give us a subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can see when we come out with a new show. We're going to talk about this book right here, The Citizen's Guide to Fifth Generational Warfare. We'll break down kind of the generations of warfare and what that means in later episodes. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to read a little bit out of chapter 2. We've got a quote up here from one of the late great presidents of the United States of America, John F. Kennedy. Said, "For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, and no secret is revealed." Ominous words from a great man whose fate we all know. I mean, I think this is a very astute definition of the situation that we find ourselves in today, and the people who are often referred to as conspiracy theorists are people who may have seen or read this at some time and understand the scope and the magnitude of this machine that he refers to, the military industrial complex, we can call that. This guy calls it the conspiracy, the dupes of the world and the conspiracy. Have no fear. Bob is here. So to keep it serious, I'm just going to go through chapter 2 of this, and just to give kind of an introduction as to what we're talking about, and then we'll go a little bit deeper and actually talk about it a little bit more in the next episode. Your mission, should you choose to accept it. For the first time in history, there is a global psychological operations agenda to consolidate power using digital platforms to affect everyone on macro and micro levels. The goal is to achieve the borderless consolidation of nations. This is all designed to prepare citizens for centralized control by a globalist elite government superstructure run by the likes of leaders from the World Economic Forum. Meanwhile, as it happens, everyone is addicted to digital dopamine, and their next fix is just a click away. Rome has become the world. We are Nero, and the fiddle is the latest twerk video on TikTok. You can play the fiddle or you can save Rome, but you can't do both. Please step away from the apple tree and stop talking to the snake. Resist the contemporary Tower of Babel. Protect your mind and control your emotions. A quote here. It's too simplistic to merely classify conflict as big and conventional versus small or irregular. Today's enemies and tomorrow's will employ combinations of warfare types. Non-state actors may mostly employ irregular forms of warfare, but will clearly support, encourage, and participate in conventional conflict if it serves their ends. Similarly, nation states may well engage in irregular conflict in addition to conventional types of warfare to achieve their goals. Clearly, the United States must be prepared for the full spectrum of conflict from all fronts and realize that preparing our forces for only selected types of conflict will be a recipe for defeat. That's a quote from Lieutenant Colonel Frank Hoffman, U.S. Marines, retired. Your neighbor is not your enemy. In 5GW, fifth generation warfare, the real adversary attacks by cornering you into polarized thinking. Your neighbors are most likely not your enemy, but it might feel that way sometimes, right? The same is happening with them, and I bet it's because of messaging you've both received from an internet source rather than anything you know about each other on a personal level. Stop now, and instead of relying on your emotional responses, follow what you personally know and can logically deduce to be true. All of you. Please. Ambiguity and randomness. All actions are precipitated by thoughts, attitudes, and decisions, incorrect or otherwise. Mass manipulation requires the use of physical situations which are framed into psychologically focused messages that are repeated over and over from various sources, told in their own way to affect people's attitudes for the purpose of influencing their behavior. Ambiguity and randomness are tenets of fifth generational warfare. And that's the reason people can't see the manipulation occurring. The primary goal is to control people indirectly, since indirect control reduces the chance of rebellion against the controlling group or individual. Overtness exposes the manipulator. Instead, the goal is to control conditions insidiously and use psychologically effective messaging to frame the perspective of a situation. This, in turn, manipulates the attitudes of the populace and consequently influences their behavior at will. Avoid the suck. If done correctly, fifth generational warfare causes people to lead themselves in the desired direction so that the manipulator avoids detection. Shadowy governments create funnels that can't be avoided without training. If you get near the opening of the funnel, you will be sucked into its vortex. Then you'll unknowingly succumb to the psyop, and you'll be along for the ride with everyone else. After reading this citizen's guide from cover to cover and sharing the information with others, you will have learned what appears ambiguous and random is actually not. This is your training to see behind the curtain and learn how to keep from being sucked into that gray zone funnel of turmoil. Your fear is justified. The fear that a single shadow government is secretly utilizing the aspects of hybrid, irregular, and unrestricted warfare against us, and that we are not smart enough to figure it out, it's not even a question. This is absolutely happening. But the questions remaining are, who is responsible and how do we protect ourselves from this shadow government? Globally, there are many governments and equally as many shadowy governments leveraging numerous useful idiots and using the conditions of the environment to shape perspectives to achieve their objectives. Another quote here. The useful idiots, the leftists who idealistically believe in the beauty of the Soviet socialist or communist or whatever system, when they get disillusioned, they become their worst enemies. That's why my KGB instructors specifically made the point, never bother with leftists. Forget about these political prostitutes. Aim higher. They serve a purpose only at the stage of destabilization of a nation. For example, your leftists in the United States. All of these professors and all of these beautiful civil rights defenders, they are instrumental in the process of subversion only to destabilize a nation. When their job is completed, they are not needed anymore. They know too much. Some of them, when they get disillusioned, when they see that Marxist-Leninists come to power, obviously they get offended. They think that they will come to power. That will never happen, of course. They will be lined up against the wall and shot. That's a quote from Yuri Bezmenov, who was a former Soviet KGB. So I'm gonna stop there. It goes into this two-stage communist revolution, the Great Reset, and how all of this stuff is laid out. But we're gonna go down some deep dives and rabbit holes into this book, so that we can share the material with anyone who is interested, anyone who wants to open their mind to the idea that we may not have full access to what would you call like a true set of objective facts of information. Since the invention of the internet and the entry of the information age, things have become a bit murky, to say the least. How can we filter the information properly in order to protect ourselves and our loved ones around us? This is what we're going to be discussing as we dive into some episodes that I will divide out into a different playlist around fifth generational warfare. Thank you very much for tuning in. This has been your episode for tonight of the Don't Hold Your Breath podcast. Oh, where is that Lavernius? Lavernius!